Excellencies, dignitaries, experts, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone joining from different time zones. I welcome you all to this policy dialogue where we all are gathered to celebrate the World Environment Day 2024 with the theme Desertification and Droughts, and the World Day to combat desertification and drought with the theme of Land, Our Future, Our Legacy. Coincidentally, the themes are overarching with the same context. Healthy land not only provides us with almost 95% of our food, but so much more. It clothes and shelters us, provides jobs and livelihoods, and protects us from the worsening droughts, floods, and wildfires. At the same time, growing population coupled with unsustainable production and consumption patterns fuel demand for natural resources, putting excessive pressure on land to the point of degradation. Desertification and drought are driving forced migration, putting tens of millions of people each year at risk of displacement. So, what do we do to spotlight the future of land stewardship, our most precious resource? How do we ensure the stability and prosperity of billions of people around the world? In this policy dialogue, we shall delve on multi actor perspectives on why greater efforts are needed, including taking integrated and holistic approaches to planning and implementation to address this issue. Before initiating this policy dialogue, I request Dr. Arvind Kumar, President India Water Foundation, to present an overview of the policy dialogue. Dr. Arvind Kumar is a strategist and key influencer in development sector with more than 29 years of experience as an author, columnist, water and human rights proactivist, and specializes in concepts like ecosystem-based adaptation, water energy food nexus, with specific emphasis on transversal approach of interlinkages between water, environment, and SDGs. He has published over 500 plus research articles and several books. He is a proud recipient of Achievers Award for his contribution to the environment from International Human Rights Organization in collaboration with United Nations Information Center, India. Dr. Kumar, please.
Thank you, Sweta. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. David Cooper, Acting Executive Secretary, Convention of Biological Diversity. Dr. Satya Tripathi, Secretary General, Global Alliance for Sustainable Planet. Professor Dr. Eddie Moore, Rector, IHE Delft Institute of Water. Padma Shri Dr. Sandesh Nayak, Director, National Institute of Advanced Studies. Dr. Ravi Motar, Professor, Texas and A&M University. Mr. Yugal Joshi, Director, Mission Life and SDGs, Niti Aayog. On behalf of India Water Foundation, it is my great pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to this high-level policy dialogue. It is widely accepted that the world is facing the negative impact of triple planetary crisis of pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss. However, there is another silent crisis marring our land ecosystem, that is desertification. While the term may bring to mind the widespread sand dunes of Sahara or the vast salt pans of Kalahari, it is an issue that reaches far beyond those living in and around the world's deserts, threatening the food security and livelihoods of more than 2 billion people. The combined impact of climate change, land mismanagement, and unsustainable freshwater use has seen the world's water scarce regions increasingly degraded. This leaves their soil less able to support crops, livestock, and wildlife. Climate change is one of the number of variables that are considered to contribute towards desertification. And estimated two-thirds of all terrestrial carbon stored from soil and the vegetation have been lost since 19th century through land degradation, agriculture, forest, other land use sectors generate roughly a quarter of all anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions. Recently estimated of the global loss of ecosystem services due to land degradation and desertification are between 6.3 US and 10.6 trillion annually. The United Nations General Assembly has declared 2021 to 2023 as the United Nations decade on ecosystem restoration, pledging to restore 1 billion hectares of land, an area larger than China, by 2030 to combat the ecosystem degradation crisis. India joined the bond challenges in 2015, pledging to restore 15 million hectares of the degraded and deforested land by 2020, an additional 8 million hectares by 2030 to achieve land degradation neutrality. The government further upped its land restoration target to 26 million hectares by 2030. Worryingly, though, ISRO's Desertification and Land Degradation Atlas of India revealed that India also lost nearly 84 MHA to desertification in the 2018 to 19, greater than 81.48 MHA in 2003 to 2005, and 82.64 MHA in 2011 to 2013, making land degradation and desertification the most serious threat to nation in the year to come. Land degradation is a major contributor to climate change, and climate change is foreseen as a leading driver of biodiversity loss. By 2050, land and degradation and climate change will reduce crop yields by an average of 10% globally and up to 50% in certain regions. Land degradation generally increases the number of people exposed to hazardous air, water, land pollution, particularly in developing countries. The benefits of the land restoration are 10 times higher than the cost estimated across 9 different biomass. The IPCC report has described farming, land degradation, and desertification as critical front lines in the battle to keep the global rise in temperature below the benchmark feature of 2 degrees Celsius. As we all know that drought is a constant threat for drylands, which presently covers 41% of the Earth's land surface, and the land degradation cost between 870 US to 1450 per person per year. Degraded lands offers little economic and biological productivity. Drylands on the other continent are now being degraded by over-cultivation, over-grazing, deforestation, and poor irrigation practices. Such over-exploitation is generally caused by economic, environmental, and social pressures. When land is degraded, soil carbon can be released into the atmosphere, all with nitrous oxide, making land degradation one of the biggest contributors to the climate change. Irrigated agriculture remains the largest user of water globally, a trend encouraged by the fact that farmers in most countries do not pay for the full cost of the water they use. Agriculture irrigation accounts for 70% of the water use worldwide and over 40% in many OECD countries. Intensive groundwater pumping for irrigation depletes aquifers and can lead to negative environmental externalities, causing significant economic impact on the sector and the beyond. In India too, reforestation and land restoration effort need to gradual from afforestation and unplanned mass tree plantation drives to conservation and restoration of freshwater, marine, coastal, and other undervalued ecosystems that take into account the diverse natural landscapes of India. The native species varying forest, land, watershed management approaches, and the interest of the local communities. risk management can enhance communities' resilience to extreme event which has an impact on food, water systems. This can be result of dietary changes or ensuring a variety of crops to prevent further land degradation and increase resilience to extreme or varying weather, reducing inequalities, improving incomes, and ensuring equitable access to food and water so that some regions where land cannot be provide adequate food are not disadvantaged. And overall focus on sustainability coupled with early action offers the best chances to tackle climate change. This would entail low population growth and reduce inequalities, improve nutrition, and lower food waste. This could enable more resilient systems and make more land available while still protecting forest and natural ecosystems. 3 out of the 4 crops producing fruits and seeds depend on pollinators. Bees are the most prolific pollinator, but they get a lot of help from the bats, insects, butterflies, birds, and the beetles. Despite their importance, all pollinators are in serious decline. Bees, especially, to protect them, people need to reduce air pollution, minimize the adverse impact of pesticides and the fertilizers, and conserve the meadows, forests, wetlands where pollinators thrive. Freshwater ecosystem need to be protected as they sustain the water cycle that keep land fertile. They supply food and water to billions of people, protect us from droughts, floods, and provide a habitat for countless plants and animals by improving water quality, identifying source of pollination, monitoring the health of the freshwater ecosystem. Investment in nature-based solutions need to more than double to 542 billion US dollar by 2030 to meet the world climate, biodiversity, ecosystem restoration goals. Water, energy, agri-food, environmental, and waste sector cannot be seen in silos. Well-designed plans should be customized as per contemporary needs in an integrated manner, incorporating transversality approach by interlinking vertical linkages between water, food, energy, and access. And ecosystem-based adaptation approaches is horizontal indicators like health, education, agriculture, gender, etc. Solutions are within each reach, but we need innovative thinking, greater political commitments, and collaboration and increased financing so that when it comes to land and water, no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar, for presenting the overview of this session. Now I introduce my next speaker, Dr. David Cooper. He's Acting Executive Secretary of the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity. He has more than 30 years of experience in environmental and agricultural science and policy and international negotiations, including more than 20 years with the CBD. He has built strong and productive working relationships with parties in all regions and with partners in civil society, international organizations, and the scientific community. Dr. Cooper, please.
The focus of World Environment Day this year is land restoration and drought resilience. Land ecosystems provide invaluable services that are essential for life, such as oxygen, food, and water. Land is also critical to our efforts to address climate change and to protect us from its worst impacts. And land is home to much of the world's biodiversity. Picture the forests, the plains and the meadows, and the extraordinary wealth of life forms that they host. Picture too the soils teeming with invertebrates and microorganisms working day and night to support life and our very existence on this planet. But land degradation through deforestation, desertification, pollution and waste, and climate change are stifling land ecosystems, putting millions of people in harm's way. We need to restore land and its ecosystem functions and services. The Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, also known as the Biodiversity Plan, is about halting and reversing biodiversity loss by 2030 for the benefit of people and planet. This is humanity's roadmap towards living in harmony with nature. The 4 goals of the plan aim to protect and restore nature, to prosper with nature, to share benefits fairly, and to invest and collaborate for nature. The plan includes a specific target to restore 30% of all degraded ecosystems by 2030. Other targets address land use planning, sustainable agriculture, urban planning, and reducing the risks from pollution. Achieving the ambitious goals and targets of the plan requires a whole-of-society approach with the active participation of Indigenous peoples and local communities, women and youth, business and civil society, and all levels of government. We must all be part of the plan. We must all be part of Generation Restoration. Happy World Environment Day to all. This year's World Day to Combat Desertification and Drought spotlights land stewardship. The theme, United for Land, Our Legacy, Our Future, is a recognition that sustainable land management is critical to providing a healthy and sustainable future for all. This is a responsibility that transcends generations. Our ancestors cared for the land because they recognized its value. Today, it is our duty to safeguard land for the next generations. Young people must be at the center of our thinking, and they must be at the center of action. We must also recognize the pivotal role of Indigenous peoples and local communities in land stewardship. Their land rights and meaningful participation in decision-making must be front and center. All parts of society must be able to contribute to sustainable land stewardship. These are powerful notions that can be found at the core of the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, also known as the Biodiversity Plan. The parties to the Convention on Biological Diversity adopted the Biodiversity Plan in December 2022 to halt and reverse biodiversity loss by 2030. This is a plan for nature stewardship with a vision of living in harmony with nature. The plan includes specific targets to manage, protect and restore land. This year, World Day to Combat Desertification and Drought marks the 30th anniversary of the adoption of our sister convention, the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. Happy anniversary, UNCCD. Let us unite for land. Let us unite for nature. This is our legacy. This is our future.
Thank you, Dr. Cooper, for your wonderful message. My next speaker is Padma Shri Dr. Sailesh Nayak, who is currently the Director of the National Institute of Advanced Studies, Chancellor of the Terry School of Advanced Studies, Delhi, Editor-in-Chief of the Journal of Indian Society of Remote Sensing. Dr. Nayak obtained PhD degree in Geology from the MS University of Baroda. He was the Secretary of the Government of India for the Ministry of Earth Sciences between August 2008 and 2015. He provided leadership for the program related to Earth System Science at Earth System Science Organization, India National Center for Ocean Information Service. He set up a state-of-the-art early warning system for tsunami and storm surges in the Indian Ocean and developed a marine GIS for improving advisory services related to potential fishing zones, ocean state forecast, and Indian Agro Project during 2006 and 8. He had joined the Space Application Center, Indian Space Research Organization, as a scientist, led coastal and ocean color research, published about 200 papers in SCI journals. Considering the impact of his research on the society, the Government of India has bestowed him the civilian honor Padma Shri in the field of science and engineering in 2024. Dr. Naik, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arvind Kumar, Ms. Sweta, and distinguished panel. My greetings to all of you on the World Environment Day. And what I would like to do is give you some idea about how the water and droughts, what we should be doing. As you know that the water is a very vital resource, and the understanding of the water cycle is of paramount importance for the combating desertification and droughts. The climate change, along with the anthropogenic activities, have modified the precipitation pattern and brought about changes in the atmospheric water vapor, evapotranspiration, soil moisture, surface and groundwater, etc., which are very critical component of the water cycle. The past climatic changes, especially during last 11,000 years or during the Holocene period, are key to understand the current climatic changes, their variability, and their socio-economic impacts. The climate was very stable, about 15 degrees or so, during Holocene, which allowed civilization to flourish. An intense cold phase and the massive drought occurred over Eurasia around 2250 before Common Era, which lasted about 200 years and disrupted the civilizations. In India, it disrupted the Harappan civilizations. During 10th to 14th centuries, marked by the medieval warming, both strong monsoons and mega droughts occurred in India. The major Islamic invasions from the Central Asia and Iran took place during this period, and the Buddhism declined in India. The Mayan civilization collapsed also during the massive deforestation and climate change during 9th to 10th century. The Little Ice Age during 15th to 18th centuries lowered the monsoon precipitation, which led to agriculture and economic decline and affected livelihood. This is the period when the Dutch, French, English, Spanish, and Portuguese colonized the world. During last 150 years, the average temperature increased about 1 degree, and the carbon dioxide concentration has reached about 420 parts per million, and we are witnessing the impacts of the sharp increase in the temperature. These changes have modified the magnitude, spatial, and temporal characteristic of precipitation, thereby causing floods and droughts. In northwest India, the length of rainy days has increased, and also corresponding increase in the seasonal rainfall has been noticed. In central India, the events of extreme rainfall are increasing and low and moderate events are decreasing. Increasing global temperatures, change in precipitation pattern, and rise in sea level affect the most hydrological processes at regional scales and manifest as modification in water availability, demands, magnitudes, and frequency of hydrological extremes of floods and droughts. Moreover, the rise in temperature enhances the intensity of the droughts. In this century, it is expected that the increase in temperature and moisture will lead to enhanced variability in mean, extreme, and interannual precipitation. Most model projections under different emission scenarios project increased frequency, severity, and area under droughts in most parts of the world. At the same time, enhanced flooding also will be experienced in the Indus, Ganga, and Brahmaputra river basins. These changes in climate along with the increased extreme events such as droughts, which will affect ecosystem services, freshwater availability, and food security, and ultimately economy and livelihood. In order to alleviate the impacts of droughts, following actions are proposed for building resilience to droughts. 1. Accurate and reliable weather forecasts, especially medium and extended range, serve as a first step. The current infrastructure for disseminating the agrometeorological advisories to farmers to be strengthened as they facilitate in adaptation of food system according to climate and contribute in enhancing food security in dryland agriculture. Drought assessment based on rainfall, vegetation conditions, soil moisture, including monitoring drought conditions through satellites, are being done at present. A drought information system to be developed by integrating not only the hydrological parameters, but also the water supply infrastructure and socio-economic data, followed by decision support system and early warning system. Next, a comprehensive accounting of spatial and temporal availability of a freshwater, both quality and quantity, for local and regional needs to be developed. Such system should assess the needs of human as well as terrestrial ecosystem and biota. An efficient dissemination of risk to all stakeholders and the structural measures including efficient and intelligent irrigation system, storage reservoirs and lakes, and conjunctive use of surface and groundwater should be part of managing droughts. The scientific understanding of droughts and floods to be improved through development of a regional climate models and identify regions that are vulnerable to these extremes under present and future scenarios of climate change. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
My next speaker is Professor Dr. Eddie Moores, who is Rector of the IIT Delft Institute of Water Education. Professor Moores was head of the research team Changing Climate and Adaptive Land and Water Management at Groningen Environmental Research. He is also a professor of water and climate at EVU University Amsterdam. Dr. Moores specialized in the research of climate change mitigation and adaptation. Earlier in his career, he worked for the World Meteorological Organization in Africa and in the Caribbean. Dr. Moores, please.
Thank you very much, Rita, and I would like to share my screen for a short presentation.
Yes, you can. You have been given you can share your screen.
At the moment, it says it's disabled.
I don't think. Yeah, please share it. Please try once again.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Just to be sure, can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So thank you very much. I think it's really nice that I also have the opportunity to talk after Professor Najjak's presentation, because I would like to build on that a little bit. What I wanted to do is to give two examples, actually, coming from Africa, on how you can also implement and make a difference in the desertification. So I would like to talk about two topics. One is landscape regeneration, and the second one is sand rivers. And I will discuss them in the different orders. I will start with the sand rivers. Now, sand rivers is a system where you have intermittent flow in rivers. So the rivers stand dry for some time of the year. Here at ITU Delft, but also at other institutions, we have been looking, okay, what are the opportunities that such a river offers to overcome the dry season? And we think that in a number of those rivers, actually quite a large number, there is an opportunity if you are dealing with the water available there in a smart way to give supplemental irrigation, which may especially help farmers in the dry season, and especially those farmers that have like horticulture type of crops in surviving actually in a period which is normally a quite difficult one. And by doing that, we think that you can also increase livelihood under those conditions. What you see on the screen here is actually on the left-hand side a more graphical presentation on how it looks like. On the right-hand side, you both see a picture actually of a river, which has such a system in there, so sand river. And on the bottom side, you see how we think you could do that. So that means that with a simple pumping system, you should be able to provide enough storage. Also, with some simple dam constructions in the rivers, you may improve the system and may improve the availability of water actually in those rivers. Big advantage of this is that in contrast actually to the use of groundwater, this is a more renewable system because you only use the very shallow aquifers in the river itself. And in normal years, those aquifers, those shallow aquifers are renewed every year when the rainy season starts. So we think it's a system that provides you a renewable water source every year, and you can use this as supplemental irrigation, especially in dry systems, with a very low need of investment, which is a simple pump working on solar panels in those regions. So that's just one example. Second example is a little bit more complicated, but I will try to explain it as well as possible. This is an effort that's been done actually between the Indian Ocean and the Kilimanjaro, because maybe you know that rainfall is actually generated from the water, most of the water coming from the Indian Ocean in the big land stretch between the Indian Ocean and the Kilimanjaro. So water is evaporated, it's been transported inland. Also water is evaporated from vegetation that is inland as well. Both of them, they contribute to rainfall. And one of the ideas behind this whole project is if you have more places where, say, moisture is generated, so more green vegetation, you will also get more rain. Now, one of the issues in this particular area is actually that because of desertification and overgrazing, a lot of those green patches have disappeared. So you don't have new sources of vapor anymore, and by that also less rain. And especially one of the issues is that the rain that's falling then is falling in just a few places, but as high intensity rainfalls, where a lot of part of the rain then disappears into rivers and is not infiltrating in the soil, and by that replenishing the groundwater system. So the idea behind this project is how to regreen this area. This is a remote sensing picture taken there. And the green spots here are areas where we think we could regreen actually a part of the desert. And by doing that, making sure that there is renewal of water vapor that then in the end may lead to rainfall. And especially that rainfall may still fall, but in lower intensity rainfall. So we don't think that the total amount of water will increase, but we do think that the water is being distributed in a much better way that allows actually for infiltration in the soil, and by that regenerating the groundwater flow. But how to do that? So here's an example. So what we say is we are trying to work together with local communities because it's about opening up the soil, but also putting seeds in the soil there. And these grass seeds have to be grown, but also those bunds has to be digged. And of course, very important is that you come to an agreement about grazing management together with the local people in there. In this particular area, it's a quite interesting zone because there is both livestock, but you also have wildlife reserves. And in drought situations, you have the livestock entering the nature reserves, but in the overflow situations, you have actually wildlife entering actually the areas of the farmers. So there's quite, say, tension in that area. And we hope by doing this and making more grasses available, we think that we can reduce the tension there and make more food available. Grasses are grown by these women communities that are growing grasses in an fenced area, as you can see here. And then those seeds are being distributed to the livestock holders that help to make the duck-out wells and the rainwater harvesting issues here. And that creates also an income to those women here. And what is nice to hear, I visited them 2 years ago. They use this income also to improve livelihood within their village, but also to sending their children to schools, which I think is an added value coming from this system. Here you see how the farmers are being digging those areas, and on the right-hand side, you see the seeds that are being put in those rainwater harvesting locations. This is a project that's been supported by Just Dig It. So if you're interested there, please go to this website. You can find more examples there, also other projects, what they're doing. I will run through them quite fast because I'm showing you this because another part besides digging the places where you need that for rainwater harvesting, this particular program is really focusing on communication. So communication with the local people there, but also communication with the different authorities. So they use ads, they use local singers, they use, say, also visiting teams with movies going to the villages to interest the farmers and to explain to them what they can do to improve their local situation. So like I said, the communication is the real power behind this project, and media is there as well. So they work with a lot of different media organizations, as you can see on the screen here, that all support by making television time, radio time, and other opportunities available to broadcast the message there. Because the real work and the impact that you see here is actually very low-key technology impact, but it requires a lot of people to participate and to join in here. And I think that's maybe the beauty of this way of improving and regreening the earth. Also from your own position, they're also trying to bring people together that have maybe financially more possibilities than the farmers in the region. And they do that by a very direct link where somebody can contribute for a very low amount, and by that supporting a farmer locally, but also showing then what's happening to those bunds that are being supported there. If you're interested to learn more about both two projects, then the first one is Annelieke Dukker that you can approach, and the other one is the Just Dig It website that you may approach. On both of them, you see the first picture, the farmers working there and how they are supported. And the second one is you see how those smileys, that we sometimes call them, if you look from, say, the sky downwards, then it looks as if the landscape is being, say, distributed with smileys, and those smileys are coming forward in this effort that's been done by the farmers. So with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. Please remember that this is an ancient technique that's being used, but it's fused with new technologies that are there. And by making this combination, I think it can work quite well. And also very important, of course, that local ownership should be there. So connecting with the people in the region, but doing that through media, doing that through singers and other, I think, influencers is a quite nice way of doing it. So thank you for your attention, and I hope that these practical examples will inspire more examples there. And I know that there are some very nice ones in India, by the way, as well, as also are in China. So it's hopefully inspiring other parts of the world to do this. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Now my next speaker is Dr. Satya Tripathi. He's actually had a technical glitch and he was out of the meeting. He's trying to join in. Let's see. So for the time being, we'll have Dr. Ravi Mohtar. He's T-Centered Professor at Texas A&M University, College Station, USA. He's the founding director of Qatar Environment and Energy Research Institute, a member of Qatar Foundation Research and Development, and the founding director, Strategic Projects at Qatar Foundation Research and Development. He was also the inaugural director of the Global Engineering Programs at Purdue University, Indiana, USA. He is focused on conserving natural resources, including land, water, air, and biological resources that face global challenges such as increasing food and water supplies for a growing population. His research has resulted in improved methods for environmental and natural resources engineering, many of which have been adopted by other professionals and agencies internationally. Dr. Mohta, please.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you, Shweta. Thank you for Dr. Kumar for the kind invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you. I have a very poor connection, so I hope that my connectivity stays on and I'll be connected with you the rest of the session. So I'm going to focus on the transversality side of the session, and I was really pleased to see Dr. Kumar's presentation at the beginning, framing that, focusing on the system approach to water management. So I'm going to focus on that aspect, starting with water as a system that impacts and is being impacted by other systems, including food, energy, health, ecosystem, and many others. As such, a system approach is needed to address water issues. Water governance and water management are all dealt with in isolation from other systems, as we all recognize. And I call this the job description syndrome. And at the interface of many of these systems is a no man's land. And that's a challenge for the governance moving forward. I recognize also that some solutions of the water sector are outside the water sector. These are not being realized because of that reason of lack of synergy among these competing but also interconnected systems. There is an awareness of the need of an approach in water management and governance as a system. However, there are very few success stories worldwide to incentivize stakeholders to accept and to adopt these system-level strategies. I here note that sectoral approaches are not being successful in resource allocation and management from a system perspective, and the current practices in water management are not adequate for a long-term sustainable policies, as you would see. Water is an enabler to sustainable development, and I'd like to share a few slides with you to highlight some of the critical issues that we're dealing with in here. So inspired by the title of the multi-stakeholder action for combating drought through water transversality, focusing on the transversality side of water management, I acknowledge here that water is an enabler to all of the sustainable development goals. I'm not going to go in detail in this, but we all know that water touches all of the what I call the silos at the moment in the sustainable development goals. Each of these goals are developed by interest groups. Each one of us have been engaged in many of these what I call silos, and this creates interdependencies among these sustainable goals that are not being realized in implementation strategies. I note here that these are aspirational goals and they're developed, and each of the nations are developing their own national strategies to meet these aspiration goals. However, in the implementation strategies to reach to these aspirational goals, ministries, separate ministries are in charge of developing plans. And we all know, and I'm going to move into an image that reflect the synergy and reflect the interconnectedness of this complex system. Water and health are connected, and we all realize that waterborne diseases, and not only the quality of water, but also the quantity of water, has a significant impact on health. There was a lot of mention about water for food. Yes, globally, 2/3 of our water goes into food production. And I would like to note here that the farmers are not the bad guys in this equation, but farmers are suffering from droughts. They're suffering from a lack of water to meet their needs, and they're also suffering from a lack of technology and lack of awareness and lack of training and capacity building to improve on the water use efficiency. And I think there's a lot of work to be done here in bringing farmers into the discussion and not put them outside of that discussion. Gender and education, climate and health. There was a lot of discussions earlier about the impact of climate on desertification, but also climate has a huge impact on health when it comes to lack of water for health reasons, but also for the dust and the drought creates a whole array of respiratory diseases and impact on air quality. We all know that the relationship between water and food is not unidirectional. It's a two-direction relationship. Education and poverty. There's a correlation between education and poverty, food and climate. And we have talked about the earlier interventions by the kind speakers did talk about that. The point I'm trying to raise here is that water touches all of these aspects of the sustainable development, but also they are very much interconnected system. And the way we have managed water all these years is through a silo approach where water community tried to work inward in finding out solutions to the water crisis. I'd like to introduce a new vision for water management. In fact, the India Water Foundation was a co-author to this report that we worked on for 3 years and was launched last year at the Water Congress in China. It's a busy slide, and I'll try to dissect it in many ways. And by the way, this framework has been implemented worldwide in many cases. If time permits, I can share with you some of these implementation and success stories. You will see on the top of the screen is what we call the International Water Management, or IWRM, Integrated Water Resources Management, which has been very effective in managing water across different watersheds and basins. The component of the IWRM is the enabling environment, institutional framework, management, and technical instruments. And last but not least, investment and financing. This has been the core principles of the IWRM as we know it, back with the GWP leadership in 2000. Smith and Clausen back in 2015 added to this framework 2 important pillars: dynamic management of change and bridging strategy and problem solving. Over the last 4 years, the task force in Transversality has been working on expanding the scope of water management into few areas that I'd like to mention here. The first is that water is at the center of sustainable development. It cannot be water for, it has to be water and, because water, as I mentioned earlier, is impacted by a whole system of water, energy, food, society in general, and economy, but it's also being impacted by those systems. So the first highlight I'd like to make here is that water and energy, water and people, water and food, water and nature, water and industry, water and peace, water and education, water and health. All of these are systems that are interconnected. The second point is that we all mentioned earlier about the interconnectedness of the system. So unless we bring incentives, and as long as we are looking inward into the water sector without bringing incentive and without bringing in the platform that enables other sectors to come in and engage in our discussion, I believe we're not going to be able to meet the challenges that is awaiting us in the future. So the four additional pillars that I'd like to discuss here are primarily focusing on non-water players that are being impacted and that are impact the water sector. And I'll start by identifying sectors impacted and assess interaction with the sector. So I'd like to invite farmers to this discussion. I'd like to invite the energy sector. I'd like to invite the health, education, the industry, the nature folks into the discussion so that they're becoming part of that water dialogue. The second pillar that I'd like to talk about is to identify solutions at the system level. I could give you tons of examples of how solutions that are not meant to be at the system level, designed for improving water strategies, end up being not as effective in these because they have failed to look at system level solutions. So identifying system level solutions that are looking at not only from a water-centric point of view, but that look at the whole system. The third pillar that I'd like to discuss, also bring up to the discussion, is to engage and train stakeholders. There's a new system in place, that new modeling that will be done. There's a new data and new scale that needs to be engaged, and those systems level stakeholders need to be brought up, engaged, and the dialogue need to happen. Last but not least of this new pillar is that we need to identify synergies and solutions that work not only for a water-centric solution, but will work for a system that of integrated pillars that will support the water sector to enable the sustainable development. Because of time constraint, I will not be able to share with you examples, but I'll be happy to, in a discussion, if we have more time, to share some of the examples that we have done in the Middle East, in the US, in Texas in particular, and many other parts of Asia, that will actually prove the point that we're able to conserve resources and we're able to really have synergistic solutions for the crisis of water, for solutions outside the water sector that enables water to be an active pillar in sustainable development and economic development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abi Mohtar. Any closing comments from Dr. Sailesh Nayak, which you were not able to share earlier, which you would like to highlight something? Well, Dr. Moores, please. Any closing comment that you were not able to, highlight in your presentation, which you would like to go back to?
Now, maybe just to also very much support what Professor Mohtar just mentioned there. I think this really important part that we should realize that we should not only look at the water sector. It's sometimes good that we also define our words a little bit, because people have sometimes a different understanding. But I fully appreciate that in some cases the water sector is being seen actually as the water utilities companies, and sometimes say the dam managers. But I do think that you can't do that without the users there. And I think that was very nicely put forward by Professor Mohtar, that we really have to look both at energy, agriculture, but also at a number of other sectors. And I think you named all 17 SDGs, which is a quite broad side. But I think if we do that, we step out of our water bubble, then there are a lot of possibilities there together. So I do hope that we are able to do this. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Absolutely. It's very important to come out of the water bubble and start collaborations and coordination with different sectors. Dr. Mohtar, you were speaking of certain examples which you wanted to share. So we do have time. If you please, you can please.
Yes, I would like to.
The technology is giving us a hard time today.
Yeah, I would like to share, if my bandwidth allows, a new initiative that is synergistic with some of the discussion on desertification. Just give me a second. I'm having challenge with my bandwidth and getting. But meanwhile, while my system is still trying to upload a slide, I'd like to share with all of you a new initiative, build a global network for soil. There was some discussion earlier about soil and the role of soil, and there is a need for us to really have a platform for a global knowledge sharing about soil. Just give me a second. It seems that maybe we'll have luck. So we got funding from the National Science Foundation here in the US to build a global network for soil for society. And the idea there that not only water, can you see my slide?
Yes, we can. Yes. It's still uploading, I suppose, because the screen has come, but the slide is not showing right now.
So
yes, now we can.
Okay, so we got funding from the National Science Foundation in the US to design a global network on soil for society. And there are several objectives there. One of the first objective that I'd like to mention is to bring in folks to the table that may not know much of their contribution to soil, but they believe that the science.
Dr. Nayak, excuse me, Dr. Nayak, can I ask you to please mute?
Yeah.
So soil is very crucial to sustainable development in addition to water. So when I talk about, for example, most of our discipline, when we talk about water, we also talk about soil. Soil is crucial for food security, for water quality, for water safety, for more and more we realize the importance of soil in energy security. And it's I would say it's something that has been ignored for many, many years. And desertification in particular has contributed on soil degradation. And I could argue that desertification is a direct impact of soil loss and soil erosion and soil degradation. And I think our effort here collectively to build a global network for soil and allow for bringing awareness to the importance of soil in sustainable development is very timely. So I wanted to take the advantage of this specific aspect to talk about that. In terms of some solutions or some examples of the system of systems approach to water management that we have been looking at, I have several examples I could share with you related to our experiences here in Texas, where water is in competition between the energy sector, the food and municipality sector. And unless we build that system approach, incentivizing people to the table so that they can talk about water management, the water sector alone cannot meet the future demand of water for all the sectors. And we had some examples. For time constraint, I'm not sure if we have time, but I can share with you more specific examples.
We can always come again and meet online, and you can share with us a lot of examples, whatever you want to share with us. Right now, Dr. Sailesh Nayak, if you are there, please, would you like to give your closing comments? He's not available right now. Anyway,
Shweta, I can share a slide if you would like me to.
Please do so. You're most welcome.
I apologize for the lack of the bandwidth is just
If you're unable to show the slide, you can verbally share whatever is on the slide with us. And well, I guess the technicality of it is taking us all. Anyway, so moving ahead, Dr. Kumar, governments and international agencies, etc., are doing a lot to promote nature-based solutions to conserve environments and land ecosystems. Can you please highlight some more nudges that we need as your closing comment?
Well, undoubtedly, government and various organizations and agencies have a strong commitment to achieve land neutrality targets, but it is the people's participation that made all the difference. Engagement with the partner organization is vital for tangible result on the ground. It is not just a top-down, but also bottom-up approach for sensitizing, incentivizing, galvanizing stakeholders. We have to bring the community, civil society, and state agencies together for integrated cross-sectoral participation through cooperation, coordination, convergence. We should revive our ecosystem, optimized financing, improved data and information, enhanced capacity, innovations, and enhanced governance. When all of it comes together, it is in transversality approach, as Dr. Mohtar said. Now, these accelerators need to be filled with actions by all the actors and together with all sectors for land restoration, water security. With all these tremendous efforts, a little more nudge is needed for community participation because land degradation trends have been less severe or avoided in areas stewarded by indigenous people and local communities. Leaving little doubt about who can lead us of this man-made catastrophe. Our soil will heal and the glaciers will reappear if only we return the land to its rightful custodians, the forest and her people. And I think if Ravi Mohtar also gives some more input you want to share, he's most welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Mohtar, okay.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Again, I do apologize, but I'm on a research tour, as I mentioned earlier, and the connection I have is very, very poor. I just want to demonstrate some of the example and the needs to bring in a system approach to water management. This is a map of the state of Texas. Texas is running a 40% projected water gap by 2035. And you'll see here, the green dots are water extraction wells for agriculture. The blue dots are water extraction wells for municipalities, for growing municipalities, and the red dots are extraction wells for energy. And it doesn't take much to see conflict in this one slide in terms of water allocation for agriculture, for growing cities, and for energy. And the state of Texas will not have water moving forward with the business as usual. So there needs to have some changes in how we look at water management for the future. And I would like to show some of the analysis that we conducted using the same approaches that I mentioned earlier in terms of bringing in stakeholders from outside the sector into the water sector that can help bridge that water gap. So these are three different solutions that are brought together by communities, that stakeholder engagement groups that are a result of the analytics outside the water community. So the blue box here is coming from Lubbock, which is a high intensity agriculture area that uses a lot of groundwater for agricultural production. And some of the solutions there to encourage dryland farming and to look into wastewater reuse came from outside that water sector, and focusing on a growing metropolitan area for San Antonio. Some of the solutions that brought together by this community to invest in low impact development that will recharge aquifers that can be used for supplying city water. And in the Eagle Ford Shale, where the region for the energy production, there are other solutions that would reduce the water need for energy outside that water sector, coming up from the energy sector. So the point that I'd like you to make is that some of the solutions for the water sector can only be brought up into light by bringing in sectors and engaging them with some of these discussions and bringing an incentive for them to engage on these discussions. And without that platform, they're not going to be able to engage in solutions to the water sector.
Thank you, Dr. Mota. So, Dr. Nayak, would you like to share some closing comments here? You're muted. Please unmute.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. And I think we had extremely good ideas which has been presented by my fellow colleagues. I'm very happy. And what I think is necessary to address the drought is some kind of a coordination mechanism between various institutes, which some of them have been presented here, to have a view on different regions, what are the success stories and how we can replicate them into the different regions. Because as I understand that we are going to have more mega droughts coming in near future, both the floods and droughts. And I think the joint mechanism to address how do we combat the droughts would be very, very useful. And I think India Water Foundation can take a central role to coordinate this kind of an activities so that we can have a sort of a consensus approach to address this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And India Water Foundation, since its inception, has been doing this coordination, cooperation, and convergence, bringing different organizations together and working towards one single goal. After listening to all the experts, I can sum up and say that land degradation creates a domino effect that amplifies other inequalities. Addressing land degradation through a holistic landscape approach is critical to ensuring food security and resilient livelihoods. Integrating land use planning, land governance, and tenure security are fundamental to achieving land degradation neutrality. We can't tackle land degradation without unlocking the economic potential of degraded lands and drylands and building back more resilient agri-food systems. We need to use innovative monitoring and evaluation systems to measure progress towards achieving land restoration. Drought resilience is crucial for ensuring the long-term sustainability of our planet. Community-led initiatives play a vital role in building drought resilience as they empower local communities to develop innovative solutions tailored to their specific needs. As has been spoken by all the speakers, that community participation is a must if we want to achieve anything related to land and water. From rainwater harvesting to drought-tolerant crops, these initiatives not only enhance food security, but also promote social cohesion and economic stability. The sustainable management of land, soil, and water resources are essential to increase food production, conserve ecosystems, improve land, soil, and water quality, and strengthen the resilience of rural communities to extreme weather events. which we all have been facing, there is a need to raise awareness of this issue, lobby for policy change, and break down silos between ministries to get them to cooperate with each other. Multilateral cooperation is essential so that all these great initiatives work as closely and smoothly as possible towards the main objective. Partnerships will allow us to share experiences and best practices, cutting-edge technologies, and innovative business models. This includes a new social contract that engages with civil society, NGOs, media, influencers, campaigners to heighten awareness and to mobilize collective action. What is needed to make this happen is political will to drive policy change, capacity involvement, and engaging all stakeholders. Protecting and restoring nature can help drive a green recovery. Investing in nature-based solutions, specifically land restoration, will allow us to build forward better, greener, healthier, stronger, and more sustainably. Thank you, dignitaries, experts. India Water Foundation is grateful to you for taking out time from your extremely busy schedule for us and gracing this event to deliberate on such a crucial topic. Also, thank you, my lovely audience, for the wonderful remarks and some interesting questions, which I'll get back to you with answers shortly. Thank you, everyone, and have a very good evening or afternoon as per your time zones. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, and we look forward to meeting you all again very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Thank you so much
Thank
for.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.